struggling. He's struggling. He's teaching 2 community college jobs, $1,500 a course. So he's got an income of $3,000. That's not his fault, and he's going to land on his feet. But we don't know what everybody's struggling with. We must be intolerant of those people that blame it on the people that are in trouble. Early childhood, the single best investment we can make, and we must figure out how to do it better. Thank you.
Okay, well, I got less time than Ty, so that's good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about as a parent. I was introduced to parenting communities around 2005. My oldest was 3. He was not talking at all. Being that he was my first one, I had no clue. I thought it was normal. He eventually will start talking. A friend of mine told me that she had a home visitor. I had no clue what a home visitor was or what they were supposed to be doing. When the home visitor came and met with me, I was kind of skeptical. You know, I was like, this person's going to come to my home, talk to me, help me, guide me. I don't know what her idea is, but she's going to tell me about my child and about me, and she doesn't know anything about us or our culture. Well, I quickly learned, you know, she didn't have to know anything about that. It was just getting to know my son, getting to know us, and the way she interacted, the way she spoke to us was new. It was a new way of how do you interact with children. You know, the wording was so differently. The questions she was asking opened up many opportunities for my family. My son then was able to go to the children's center, and he, as soon as he was with his peers, he quickly started talking. And so she ended up being my home visitor for many years. You know, my sons are very spread out. My oldest is 16. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. So she's still part of our lives. And it was an eye-opening to me to discover, you know, the language that this person was bringing to my home, and it was a way for me to carry myself and my family, and it really changed us in the way that we started then communicating with the community. You know, seeing that other people were going through the same struggles that we were. When you're a stay-at-home mom, you know, you feel very isolated and alone. And being able to go to play groups was, you know, really refreshing to see other people that, you know, were going through the same things that we were. And that we weren't alone. There were people that were struggling, you know, with their children or financially. But it was a sense of this community that was not known to me before until I had somebody come to my home and help me and guide and walk with me. And so that was very refreshing to be able to have that in my life. And then after a couple of years, I was asked if I wanted to be a home visitor for parenting communities. And I said, okay, let me go to the interview. I showed up, and anybody who knows Maggie Sprant Moran, I showed up and I was like so nervous. I was like, okay, I'm ready for this interview. And she's like, okay, so can you start tomorrow? And I was like, wait, what about the interview? She's like, no, I already know I want you on my team. And I'm like, okay. So that changed me. You know, the excellent training that I got through the parenting communities really helped me. I was hired on to just home visit the Spanish speakers in Leona County. At that time, I had about 13 families. Majority of them had just come from Mexico. And my job was to help them navigate, you know, the school system, healthcare, the language, the community, any questions that they had, you know, I was their guide. And so I started with, what do you need? What does your family need in order for them to feel like they're going to be able to accomplish what your dream is? And so it was like the question that was asked to me, you know, how can I help you be the parent that you dream of being? And so I heard them, and their requests were like they wanted to learn English, so we started English classes. They wanted to finish high school, so then I teamed up with MSU, the HEP program, so they could get their GED. We got volunteers, tons of people from the community who were coming and helping. I explained to them about, vaccinations and going to the doctor and getting physicals and going to the dentist and eye doctors. I mean, it was so new to a lot of these families, so I was just there guiding and helping them fill out applications and taking them to play groups, and then, talking to them about preschool and the importance of preschool, and that then gave them the opportunity to be able to work and feel less stressed because they were able to provide and contribute to the family. And so with that, I left parenting communities after many years. It was due to budgeting, and I had to move forward. And I applied at Sutton's Bay School, and the superintendent was just leaving that summer when I had applied, but he had left a sticky note on my application and said, hire this one. So then again, I didn't have an interview, I was just hired right away. And so Sutton's Bay, knowing, my background with parenting communities and just how strong the home visitors in this county are, they allow me to do a lot of the similar things that I did with parenting communities. And so I'm able to still carry on that, but in the role there at Sutton's Bay School. And then also working for the intermediate school district with the migrant program, I'm also able to do that as well. And, we have just the surrounding counties, so it's more that I do. But I mean, it's really opened up a lot of doors for me. The opportunity to have somebody to come into my home and walk along me and not so much tell me what to do, but just hold me and listen to my needs. And so, for those of you that do know, the 5 protective factors are really important, and that's, a lot of our Spanish speakers do know about this, and this is the way we speak, this is what we eat, and this is how we've been able to function in the community.
I wonder if you could mention the 5 protective factors.
Yes, for those of you that do not know, so the 5 protective factors, we use our little hand. It's social and emotional competence of children, knowledge of parenting and child development, social connections, parent resilience, and concrete support in times of need. Uh-huh. And so, okay, I was gonna wait till the end, but my helper. No, that's okay. So, like ways that we can help, in our community. What was so important for me, I did not know about play groups, and so we cannot assume that everybody knows that there are play groups or things like this. We need to reach out to young families or new parents and let them know about these play groups. And, sometimes, it would really help if you go with someone. Nobody really wants to go to a play group if they don't know anybody. Go with them, especially if they have more than one child. They're gonna struggle. Go with them, help, support them, make them feel comfortable. Befriend those individuals, because a lot of them are lonely, they're isolated, they don't really have anybody. It's really important, when I worked with parenting communities, it was important for us to be present, at the baby pantry, the food pantry, the laundry project. A lot of places where parents are trying to get so much done and they don't have that extra person to be there. So to be there to help them and support them and watch their children while they're quickly trying to get everything done. Just, offer your assistance to helping and being part of the community, because remember, things can only work if we support each other. I feel like saying amen. No good.
I just thought that was really important, her thoughts on that. I'm Laura Tui, I'm the program coordinator, you can hear me? Yes, okay. I'm the program coordinator at Leland Township Library, and I'm also the parent of 2 young children under 3, so I'm living and working in this community. And I'm here to talk about the joys and challenges of raising children here in Leelanau County. There are many. And in my experience, though, some of our greatest strengths as a community are also some of our greatest weaknesses, and there's a lot of room for growth there. I'm relatively new to this community. I moved here about 3 years ago. I met my husband at U of M, where we graduated, and he went to Glen Lake schools, and we lived in California for about 10 years. I worked as an early childhood educator, an elementary school teacher, a museum educator, and as a preschool director. And then just over 3 years ago, we moved here right before our daughter was born. And we both left really high-paying jobs that were stable and secure to come here. And as many of you know, this is a wonderful place to raise children, and we feel so lucky to be able to choose this life for our family. There's so many reasons why we love living here. The park, the beaches, the lakes. We're outside almost every day, despite the weather. We have access to healthy food. We love the farming culture here. But the number one reason that we're here is really community. We have a network of, my husband's family is here. We have a network of friends, neighbors. In that community, I count different organizations, nonprofits, and their volunteers. And I also count libraries and our teachers and daycare providers. Many of my husband's friends moved away for college and came back to this community, and they're raising their children here too. And it's really a really fun time in our lives, but it's also a challenging time in our lives. And I'm really grateful to have that network of friends who are kind of in this with me. I'm a working parent. I work part-time, which I have to acknowledge is a luxury. A lot of parents can't afford to do that. They either need to have one parent stay home, or they need to work full-time in order to make just this life work. And I'm able to work part-time, so I'm really grateful for that. I have an extremely supportive boss. I work at the library, and Nancy and Berkeley are here. They're the extremely supportive boss and board at the library. I have two children, one's 3, one just turned 1, and was able to work part-time and kind of work out a maternity leave to have my son after my son was born, and then also I couldn't find childcare for him after he was born, so the library and Mark Morton, the director at our library, worked with me until I could get back to my normal 3-day-a-week schedule. So I worked 1 day a week for a while, then I worked 2 days a week for a while, now I'm back up to 3, and I was able to do a lot of that work from home. So I really appreciated that flexibility, and also. In January and February, my children were either sick because of sickness or snow days. I missed 1 to 2 days a week of work, and I only work 3. And I was able to keep my job during that, that's really hard for a lot of parents. Lots of parents either choose to keep their jobs or stay at home with their children when they're sick or when there's snow days. So parents need help. We just need more flexibility, just a safety net, I think. I don't know what parents did when there were however many snow days there were this winter. My part of my safety net is Kareen. So I started working, Kareen is our daycare provider. I started working when my daughter was 15 months old. I stayed home until then, and I started this job at the library. And I live in Empire, and there are almost no options for an infant toddler in that area that I know of. So we were really lucky to find a spot in an in-home daycare in Lake Leelanau with Kareen Couturier. She is a master teacher. She's got a background in Montessori education, and my children are thriving in her care. My daughter, when she talks about our immediate family, she talks about Mama, Dada, Will, my son, Finley. Then she talks about her grandmother, and she talks about Kareen. So she considers Kareen a part of our family, and so do I. And I know that my friends who have their children with other daycare providers in the county feel the same way. So our daycare providers and our preschools are our strength of this community. But we need more of them. As Ty said earlier, it's nearly impossible to find a spot for an infant or toddler in this community. It's really, really a challenge. Once children become 3, then you have more options, but those are still limited. So I think a lot of parents who would like to work but are opting out of working in this community because they can't find a place for their children to go. And also those daycare providers and those preschools need our support. Licensing is a tedious, cumbersome, but important process, and I think it's weeding out a lot of people who would like to do that work. There aren't enough providers. We've already lost one licensed daycare provider in this county since the beginning of the year. Childcare is expensive, but the money is not going to the providers. They work 50 hours a week. They have no benefits. They get very little time off. The preschool teachers are not, they're not compensated very well as given the cost people pay for care. The preschools are wonderful. The Children's Center, Suttons Bay, Glen Lake, St. Mary's, Leland on Montessori. There are lots of really wonderful schools here. It's also it's incredibly challenging work that those teachers do. It requires a lot of emotional and physical energy. And like I said, the wait list for infants and toddlers can be really long. As we said, being a parent in this community can be really isolating. Unless you live in a village, we lived in Southern California. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., where you can walk places. But unless you live in a village here, it's really hard to get out sometimes. Driving to Traverse City is possible, and I'm really grateful to have that option, but it's expensive and it's time consuming. And so I have to say that I'm really excited, both as a parent and also as a service provider, that education, that early childhood programs and services are starting to come back. It sounds like, I'm new to this community, but it sounds like once upon a time there really was there were a lot of services and programs for children, and they were lost. So like parenting communities losing funding, needing to move on. Those programs are starting to come back. So all 4 libraries in the county now have story times. Parenting Communities has playgroups 4 to 5 times a week, which is thrilling. When I moved here, I think there was 1, maybe 2. It was 1 to 2 times a week. They do group hikes for families. The old art building has a great music class for young children that parents pay for, but the fee is reasonable. The Glen Arbor Arts Association is also offering classes for children under 5. Norte is a group that promotes healthy lifestyles and biking in Traverse City. They're now in Northport teaching young children how to bike, to ride bikes, and Leland on Bike is distributing bikes at no cost to families. And then also Leland on Christian Neighbors with their baby pantry is really wonderful. But people don't know necessarily about these services. Parents don't know, caregivers don't know, and so they're not taking advantage of them. So we need some advocacy, awareness help there. And then I can talk briefly about my work at the library, which I really, really love. The Leland Township Library has had story time regularly for years. Sylvia Mertz, the previous director, and Mark Morton, our current director, are incredibly supportive of me trying to offer early childhood education services. It started off a couple years ago with Donna Stowe and Patty Yearn, who was part of Parenting Communities, and they teamed up and offered a regular story time and a snack. And now we have Lori Lissick helps us on Fridays. She's a library board member and a former Leland public school teacher who's she's a master teacher. She's really wonderful. I couldn't be more grateful for her, the time that she volunteers, that she contributes to the library. She's just fantastic. We're really fortunate that we have other retired educators volunteering their time and talent and programs at the library. About 18 months ago, we switched our story time from Tuesdays to Fridays because the Children's Center in Leland was closed on Fridays. It is on Northport too. So we thought that maybe our story time used to be on Tuesdays. We thought that maybe those families would like to come to the library. And when we made that switch, we went from a handful of people coming every week to 40 people coming 20 people, 20 parents and 20 children. And that lasted for about a year. Now we're around 20 people, but we don't see that as a negative. We see it as a positive because it means that there are other options for those families. There's the play groups now, and then there are those other art classes. So parents have choices where they're going to take their child. We'd love to see them, but we're just really happy that they're being served elsewhere. Like I said, the four libraries in the county are all offering a regular story time. They do it year-round during the school year. Our library and parenting communities have teamed up to do a monthly program in the evenings. So we alternate between sort of like a fun community building program, or we had a sledding party recently, and then the next month we'll do sort of a parent education evening around tough topics like social emotional development, mental health, and gun safety. And our hope is really just to, it's an evening event so working parents can come and just learn from each other, share our horror stories, but also just like our small wins there together. We do a program that I'm really excited about. It's our daycare delivery program. It's something we started about 18 months ago. Our licensed daycare providers in the county are open the same hours that the library is, except for Saturdays. So they weren't able to come to us, so we bring the books to them. Every 3 weeks we bring a new bag of 10 books. They can suggest topics based on what the children in their care are talking about, or we can just bring them books that we think are really wonderful. The feedback we've gotten for this program, it's totally free to participate. About 4 daycare providers participate. We've gotten really wonderful feedback both from the women who are doing the care, and then also from the parents whose children attend those daycares. Okay. And then in the summer we offer a program every Friday. Usually it's music-based, literacy-based. I'm really fortunate that our library not only has a program coordinator, but has also allocated funds for me to use to pay people in our community to come present. So we try and keep that money as local as we can, and we're supporting artists and musicians in this community. One thing I must say about that, though, is most of the programs that we're planning are for non-working parents. The story times, the play groups all happen in the morning. And so they're for grandparents. And it's really, really wonderful, but there are a lot of working parents who can't tap into this network that we're trying to create. So we need more, is what I'm trying to say. We need more daycare providers. We need more early childhood programs and services. And we need more volunteers. Like Ty was saying, navigators. That's a wonderful idea. Just people to help. Manpower. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Patricia if she might come up now and do our concluding remarks. And in view of both Beatrice and Laura's references to parenting communities, you might say a few words about that program, because that is a program that you've been very involved with and is so important to our community.
Thank you. I'll be brief because I know the clock is ticking here. But it's exciting to be present the sequel, the exciting sequel to what has been an excellent program, and a lot of useful information here. And let's give our panelists a round of applause. Well done. As you gathered from the many, many examples and things that have been said here today, Leelanau County, can you hear me okay? Leelanau County has always been a leader in early childhood. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a long way to go and a lot of problems. And a lot of this leadership initially came from Maggie Spratt-Moran, who was mentioned earlier, who I affectionately dubbed the Mother Teresa of early childhood. She has been the impetus behind a lot of efforts, one being parenting communities, which she created. And it's a program that goes back 20 years, and in 2015, the Leelanau Early Childhood Development Commission, and Mary Tonenberger is on the board, and Joey Povolo, and Judge Kromkowski, who just left, picked this up as the fiduciary carriers for parenting communities. This is an amazing program, as you've heard. It's so fortunate to have people like Bea involved with it, who have been from the beginning, who learned as a parent and then went on to share what she had learned and the way in which she learned it to other families. And to have folks like Laura, who right now has been hugely instrumental in participating with parenting communities by providing all manner of activities and support and even money through the library to support many of the activities. In addition to the playgroups that you've heard about and the home visiting and the parent education, it's simply a way to reach out to families throughout the county and to see that they have what they need to literally be the best parents they dream of being. And that is not easy. Many of our families here do not have family to help support them. They don't have mom and dad or grandparents, or maybe they do, but they're not the best role models or not available. You know, and even those families, I mean, this is a program that's universal, meaning it's open to everybody. There's no fee associated with it. The cost is about $150,000 a year right now to run it. There's been a huge push to expand it. And folks like Mike Carmian, who's our superintendent here today with Sutton's Bay, by picking up Bea and allowing the program to continue through with migrant families and with the Hispanic community, has been a huge way to extend and enhance what's already started but was suffering from lack of funding. So that's one of the key problems here we do need to address is funding. But there are many others. I mean, Laura mentioned the need for flexibility and a safety net, but also talked about the challenges to providers, the joys of families, the need for people to want to be in Leelanau County to raise their kids. When I went door to door, that was one of the key things I heard from young families. We want to be here, we love what Leelanau County has to offer, but man, it's hard. As Ty alluded many, many times, it's a challenge for families to live here and to have a family and to raise that family here. Economically, it's a nightmare. But there are so many other wonderful things about our county. That's why everybody wants to be here. And we need to try to make that possible. So, to that extent, let me say that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners recently passed a motion that is going to allow that did allow establishment of a Leelanau County Early Childhood Committee to study Leelanau County families, the available programs and services, and come up with recommendations on what we can do to enhance programs and services for our families here. Recommendations that will go to the TBISD, that will go to the county, that will go to lawmakers, that will go to anyone else that we feel can have a part in making some changes here. This is an opportunity to really make a difference and create a model for what our early childhood programs can be. And to that end, all of the stakeholders we could think of are serving on the committee. Mark Carmian is on it along with another superintendent. I want to acknowledge Tony Ansorgi, who is my co-chair. Oh, Tony, stand up so people know who you are. Okay, he's just going to wave a hand and hide. And also Megan, another superintendent, and Sheila Anderson, who is the director for St. Mary's Early Childhood Program, is going to be on it. Mary Tonenberger, former commissioner, will be on it. There are a number of others here, and Bea, we hope you are joining too. Laura has agreed to be on it as well. So we have a large committee that represents all of the stakeholders and parents and teachers, anyone who provides services to early childhood. The meeting tentatively is scheduled for 9 o'clock on the 18th of April. We will be confirming that this week. It is a public meeting. It's open to everyone. We welcome ideas and input. on the table over here, I've left my card. If you want to receive information or emails about this, pick up a card and email me, please, and we'll put you on the distribution list. But I think we have an opportunity here to do something that Maggie started a long time ago, to look at not only various forms of sustainability to our existing programs, but other ways to enhance our programs, to utilize what we have and build on that. And we're not talking just money. We're talking at looking at all facets. So we hope you will support this effort, come out to the meetings, or stay in touch with people that you know are on the committee, or stay in touch with me. We'll keep you informed. Thanks so much.